It was the promise of adventure and the lure of a forgotten place that drew me to the abandoned psychiatric hospital on the outskirts of Grimsby. My name is Theo Finch, an urban explorer with a knack for uncovering hidden histories. The hospital, known as Ravenscar Asylum, had been shut down for decades, and rumors about its haunted past had circulated among thrill-seekers like me. I received a mysterious letter just a week before, its paper yellowed and edges frayed. The letter was brief but compelling. Ravenscar holds secrets that time has forgotten. If you seek the truth, come alone after midnight. The anonymity of the letter, combined with the allure of unraveling Ravenscar's secrets, was too enticing to ignore. That Friday night, armed with a flashlight, camera, and a healthy dose of skepticism, I ventured into the darkness. The Ravenscar Asylum loomed before me, a crumbling edifice swallowed by the creeping tendrils of ivy and shadow. The iron gates were rusted and barely hanging on their hinges. I squeezed through and made my way up the cracked path to the main entrance. The building's facade was a grotesque blend of faded grandeur and decay, with broken windows and peeling paint. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the faint, metallic tang of old blood. My flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing peeling wallpaper and shattered furniture. The silence was oppressive, punctuated only by the occasional drip of water from a leaky ceiling. The hospital's corridors stretched endlessly, their emptiness echoing the desolation that had taken root here. The deeper I ventured, the more I felt an unsettling presence, as if unseen eyes were following my every move. My footsteps seemed unnaturally loud in the stillness, and the shadows on the walls danced in the flickering beam of my flashlight. As I explored the labyrinthine halls, I stumbled upon a room with faded, once vibrant murals depicting serene landscapes. The contrast between the peaceful scenes and the room's current state of ruin was jarring. It was then that I heard the whispers, soft, unintelligible murmurs that seemed to come from the walls themselves. I strained to listen, but the whispers grew louder, more insistent. The air turned colder, and my breath began to fog up the flashlight's beam. I felt a chill run down my spine as the whispers became coherent, forming words that seemed to plead for release. Suddenly, the temperature dropped drastically, and the whispers turned into a cacophony of anguished cries. The walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own, and shadows moved with a sinister intent. Panic set in as I realized I was not alone. I stumbled into a large room filled with broken mirrors, their shards scattered across the floor like shards of shattered reality. The room was eerie, the mirrors reflecting distorted images of the dimly lit space. As I navigated the debris, I noticed that the reflections did not always align with reality. Figures seemed to move independently, their movements jerky and unnatural. My heart raced as I saw a figure in one of the mirrors, a gaunt, hollow-eyed man with a tortured expression. He reached out to me from the reflection, his fingers pressing against the glass, as if trying to escape. I spun around, but there was no one behind me. The figure remained trapped within the mirror, his gaze locked onto mine with a desperate intensity. The room's atmosphere grew heavier, and the whispers returned, louder and more frantic. It was as if the spirits trapped in the asylum were reaching out through the mirrors, desperate for someone to understand their suffering. Determined to uncover the truth, I pressed on, finding a room filled with old records and patient files. Dust-covered files lay scattered across the floor, their contents revealing a history of cruel treatments and unethical experiments. The asylum had once been infamous for its brutal methods, and the patients' stories were heartbreaking. As I read through the files, I began to piece together the grim history of Ravenscar. The asylum had been a place of torment, where the mentally ill were subjected to inhumane experiments and punishments. The staff's cruelty had left a deep scar on the building, and the restless spirits of those who had suffered here were now trapped within its walls. The air grew thick with the sense of sorrow and anger, and the whispers returned, now clear and coherent. They spoke of betrayal, suffering, and the desperate need for justice. I felt a growing responsibility to honor their memories and uncover the truth. As the night wore on, the asylum's malevolent presence became increasingly aggressive. The whispers turned into shouts, and the shadows grew more menacing. I felt an icy hand brush against my neck, and the air was filled with the oppressive weight of the spirit's anguish. In the heart of the asylum, I found the remnants of an old operating theater. The room was set up for procedures long abandoned, with rusted surgical tools and stained, tattered drapes. It was here that the spirits seemed most agitated, their presence palpable and overwhelming. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out, plunging me into darkness. I fumbled for my flashlight, but it was as if the darkness itself was alive, swallowing the light. The whispers became a deafening roar, and I felt the very walls of the asylum closing in on me. In the pitch-black darkness, I saw figures moving around me, shadows of the past, their faces twisted in agony. The air was filled with a cacophony of wails and screams, and I felt a suffocating pressure on my chest. I was surrounded by the spirits of the tormented, their suffering palpable and relentless. In the midst of the chaos, I encountered moments that defied logic and plunged me into sheer terror. The asylum seemed to come alive with malevolent intent, as if the very building was conspiring against me. I heard footsteps echoing behind me, yet every time I turned, the corridors were empty. The sound of a door slamming shut reverberated through the halls, even though no door had moved. A sudden gust of icy wind brushed past me, extinguishing my flashlight's beam for a heartbeat, leaving me in pitch darkness. A loud bang echoed through the asylum, and I turned to see a door slamming violently shut. I rushed towards it, but when I reached the door, it was locked tight. The sense of being trapped was overwhelming, and I felt an unseen force pressing down on me, making it hard to breathe. In the old infirmary, I stumbled across a bloody handprint on the wall, as if someone had clawed their way to escape. The sight of it sent shivers down my spine. I could almost hear the anguished cries of the patients who had once been confined here. The air was thick with a sense of impending doom, and the temperature plummeted even further, making my breath visible in the freezing air. The final straw was when I encountered a spectral figure, a woman in a tattered hospital gown, her face contorted in eternal agony. She reached out to me, her eyes hollow and pleading. I could see right through her, and she seemed to glide across the floor, her presence chilling me to the bone. I stumbled backward. The sight of her haunted expression burned into my memory. Desperate to escape the horrors that surrounded me, I stumbled through the asylum's maze-like corridors, guided only by the faintest slivers of light. The spirits' cries grew louder, their anger and pain a tangible force that pushed against me. My flashlight flickered erratically, casting eerie, shifting shadows on the walls. The whispers became a desperate, pleading chorus, urging me to leave. My heart pounded in my chest as I navigated the labyrinthine halls, driven by a primal instinct to escape. Finally, I reached the main entrance, the broken iron gates a welcome sight. I burst through the doors and into the cold night air, my lungs burning with the effort. As I looked back at the asylum, it stood silent and still, its malevolent presence now a distant memory. The experience at Ravenscar Asylum left an indelible mark on me. The spirit's anguish and the darkness that lurked within its walls were a stark reminder of the horrors that had transpired there. I knew that I had uncovered only a fraction of the asylum's dark history, but the truths I had revealed were enough to haunt me for a lifetime. In the weeks following my visit, I struggled with the lingering effects of the encounter. The whispers and shadows that had plagued me in the asylum continued to haunt my dreams and waking hours. The weight of the spirit's suffering was a constant reminder of the price I had paid for seeking the truth. Despite the fear and trauma, I felt a deep sense of responsibility to share the story of Ravenscar Asylum. I wrote a detailed account of my experience, ensuring that the voices of the tormented were heard and their suffering acknowledged. The asylum's dark history was finally brought to light, and the spirit stories were told. As I moved forward, I carried the memories of Ravenscar with me, a somber reminder of the horrors that had been hidden in the shadows. The asylum, now a forgotten relic of the past, stood as a testament to the darkness that can reside in the human soul and the enduring strength required to confront it. If you want to see more horror stories, please like the video, share your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel. Stay with us, thank you, and see you in the next videos.